At this time, pause the video and fill in the missing parts of the definition for our vocabulary words. Identify 3 different parts on a 3D figure. So with that said, this right here is a 3D figure. It fits the definition. It also is a prism, and it's a really special type of prism where every face on this prism is a square. So we call it a cube. With that said, what is a face? A face is a flat surface on a 3D figure. So this right here is an example of a face. I might call it the front face. In the second chunk in your notes, you need to identify what a face is, what it looks like on the cube. So somehow find a way to show that this is the face. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 faces on this cube. Next, we have edges. Edges are where 2 faces meet. So for an example, this right here is an edge. The top face and the front face meet there. They share it. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 edges on this cube. Next, we have a vertex. A vertex is where 2 or more edges meet. So for an example, here is a vertex. It's that tiny point right there because this edge, the side edge, and this one right here all meet right here at this vertex. So how many vertices are on this cube? We have 1, 2, 3 in the back, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 vertices on this cube. Let's go to the next chunk in our notes and learn how to name prisms. Prisms have special ways that you can name them. And part of how you name them comes through the definition of what a prism is. And we have that at the top of our notes. So how do you name a prism? You name a prism by the shape of its bases. Go ahead and fill that in your notes right now. You name a prism by the shape of its bases. Now you might go, Miss Clover, what is a base on a prism? You see the picture in front of you, that is a prism, but how do we name that prism? Well, if you imagine that the prism is like a loaf of bread, and if you were gonna slice off a piece of that bread, what shape would be staring at you? Look at the prism in front of you. See how I'm slicing through it like I'm slicing through a loaf of bread? If I did that and peeled away what I sliced off, what shape would be staring at you? A triangle. So we actually would call this prism a triangular prism. So the bases on this prism are triangles. They're congruent and they're parallel to each other, right? The front triangle and the back triangle are never gonna touch. All the other faces on this 3D shape are parallelograms. They're rectangles here. And remember, rectangle is a type of parallelogram. So we would call this a triangular prism. In your notes, write triangular prism next to the picture. So here is the next prism that we have to name. How do we name a prism again? We name it by the shape of its bases. Bases are faces, but they're those faces that are parallel, the 2 polygons that are never going to touch, and they're congruent. So remember, here's my hint to you. Pretend that the prism is a loaf of bread. In this case, our loaf of bread is sitting upright, right? But if you could imagine flopping down on its side, slicing through that loaf of bread, what shape would be staring back at you? A pentagon. Yeah, a 5-sided polygon we call a pentagon. So this would be a pentagonal prism. Write that in your notes next to the prism. The last part in this lesson talks about identifying, so picking out a 3D shape that's a pyramid and then naming it. We're not going to do too much with this, but it's important to know the difference between a pyramid and a prism. So a pyramid is a 3D figure with 1 polygon for a base, and then all the other faces are triangles and they meet at 1 point. So you can see the image in front of you is a 3D shape, and it is a pyramid. Here's what you need to fill in your notes in the last chunk. You name a pyramid by the shape of its base. 1 base this time, not 2. Base. So fill that in your notes. Look at the face of this pyramid that is blue. That is our base. And you can see that really it's no different than any of the other faces on the pyramid, for it is a triangle. So this would be a triangular pyramid. Go ahead and fill that in next to the picture, or write that in next to the picture. So here's our final example. This is a pyramid, right? All those side faces are triangles and they're meeting at one point. So how do we name this pyramid? We name it by the shape of its base. Look at that base. What shape is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That means my base is a hexagon. This, therefore, since I name it by the shape of its base, is a hexagonal pyramid. That brings us to the end of our notes. Make sure you wrote hexagonal pyramid next to that image in your notes. In this lesson, we worked on identifying 3D figures, more specifically prisms and pyramids, what makes them a prism, what makes them a pyramid, and how to name both. That's all, folks. There's now an assignment for you to practice these skills in the lesson folder on Schoology.